Okay, then I guess. What's happening, Flagler County? I'm Crystal Dewin with the Flagler County Buzz, and we are sitting here with Palm Coast Mayor Mike Norris. This is day 117 since he's been elected as mayor. And as many of you know, in the last city meeting, there were some allegations made regarding conduct in a meeting, and we're here to talk about some of the things that Mayor Mike Norris has found within his 117 days in office, as well as some of the things leading up to this allegation. So, to thank you, Mike, for sitting down and talking with us about this.
No worries.
I want to start out with, can you kind of go over some of the reasons that led to your frustrations before this meeting that happened with acting city manager Lauren Johnston?
Okay, I'd like you guys to remember this term, wagging the tail wagging the dog. Remember that term because we're going to come back to it. A lot of the issues goes back decades, not just recently, but leading up to the election, starting with Miss Hyder's resignation. And once I got into office and some of the things that I've observed and what's happened, if we had a different form of government, we would be sitting in a different place right now. First thing I'd like to talk about is personnel, human resources, and the staff. Okay. This is the thing that infuriates me the most, and this is infuriated for me right here. The way I'm sitting right now is, people say he has a temper, but this is me being infuriated. The biggest problem in our city government and our staff is that infuriates me the most is the stealing of time, which is a crime, verified by Sheriff Staley, that stealing time from an organization is a crime. And I think it's rampant within the city. As a matter of fact, in the first week when I came into office, I was talking to Lauren, and someone had given me a spider web before I ever was sworn in. Matter of fact, they handed me the spider web, handwritten, when we were doing early voting. And this was a gentleman that was fired from the city, a gentleman that worked in the building department that has more than 40 years experience in the building industry and inspecting homes and stuff like that. He was fired. His qualifications are so good that within 2 weeks of being fired, he had like 4 or 5 other job offers. He took a job on the other side of the state, getting a $40,000 pay raise. And so I believe this guy and the stuff he provided me in that spider web. But stealing time is a big deal. And the citizens of Palm Coast, they pay their taxes. They do what they're supposed to do. They obey, for the most part, they obey the ordinances within the city, and they live their lives. But they certainly don't deserve their employees stealing time from them, which is what's been going on. I told Lauren, I said, Lauren, I wouldn't be surprised if there's somebody that has a no-show job in this city. They don't even show up because that's the way they roll. When I say wag the dog, I want the city to understand the way our government works because of sunshine laws, and we have 4 members right now. The way I see it, then this is all my opinion, so I have my opinion too. You're operating in a silo. The city manager and the attorney can only talk to each individual council members, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you got 4 council members. So, and I can't speak for Ms. Pontieri, but one thing she said previous when we shot down the water rate increase for obvious reasons, she said from the dais that they had their 3 votes. In my opinion, and my concerns didn't matter because she asked for alternatives, what we could do alternatively to that huge hundreds of millions of dollars investing in the water treatment facility, right? So you got 4 people. So they'll go to 1. Okay, we got to vote. We got a vote on that one. Good. Go to the next person. Okay, maybe not so much. Not yet. We got to do some convincing. And then you go to the next one. Okay, we got 3 votes. So what does that leave? That one person out there hanging with no opinion. It doesn't matter. They got what they wanted. That's a good analogy. but that's the way the way things have been operating in the city. Um, Going back to personnel, before I was even sworn in, I asked for what in the military we call an alpha roster. Everybody in the city, their job description, how much their base pay is, their benefits, everything included, so we know how much each individual employee costs us. And I don't know if the city knows this or not, but since 2020, our city government has grown by about 25%. That's during COVID, starting in COVID, has grown by 25%. And because in 2020 we have 500 employees, we have over 600 now. So we have been stuffing the government with more employees. And if you've been here since 2020, you probably don't notice the levels of service being better, but you do know it's costing you more money. But I asked for that alpha roster. And one of the categories from my background is essential employees. Who are essential employees? Who has to be on duty working to keep the city maintaining in a matter of natural disaster, uh, anything, anything that really bad happens. And the roster I got back, every every employee is an essential employee. Now I was a human resources manager. I have a degree in human resources management. Um, Not everyone is essential personnel. I hate to say, you know, like your husband works at the water treatment plant, I think,
Wastewater.
wastewater. Um, that person's kind of more important than, you know, the clerk, one of the clerks or customer service downstairs receiving someone's payment for their water bill, right? You got to have safe water. So if everything goes away, if we have a bad situation, that person is not as important as this person. So that's one problem. But the stealing time is the most critical. And there was one person that was terminated and this is how it works. Let me explain it to you. There's two ways you can log out from work. You can log out on your phone inside the facility you work at, or you can log out from your desktop, or your supervisor can log you out. Am I correct?
Um, I don't know.
You're,
I don't ask.
I figured your husband would tell you.
I don't ask.
But anyway, we had one person that was terminated. When I brought it up, they did their little mini investigation. From my understanding, they terminated one employee and they suspended two or three for like 3 days without pay. Um, being responsive in an organization this size, when um, a top executive asks you for information, you kind of provide that information. It's your duty to provide that information. Well, when I brought up the instance where the guy was talking about them stealing time from the city, that there was no follow up. They would not have told me what the disposition of that situation was if I didn't ask. And it was almost like they were leery to tell me what had happened. And they said, okay, we fired this one person and we suspended these two people for 2 or 3 days with no pay. And I don't even know the people's name because it's really not relevant to me. If you're stealing time, to me, that's a fireable offense. They should have been fired. And it's not hard for the timekeepers and the human resources department to go back. If you've ever been a timekeeper, you know, because I've been a timekeeper, you can go back and you can track every transaction on that person's pay in time. It's easy to do. So there should have been an analysis done and seen how many supervisors were logging. Oh, I didn't even get to that part. What was happening was the supervisor would tell them, "Oh, you can go home," and they'd log them out from their computer. So there's no way unless they went back and did an actual audit of the timing to say, okay, Joe Smith, every day he's out of the office at 2 o'clock, and people that work with him know he's out of the office at 2 o'clock, but his supervisor is logging him out at 4:30, 5 o'clock. It's not that hard to go back and do an examination to find out what's going on. So that's at least three people that were involved in that, and I'm sure it was probably widespread throughout the city. I would hope not. I would hope more people are more honest than that and do an honest day's work for an honest day's pay, because our city salaries are um, more than competitive. Compared to the sheriff's department, the sheriff said he loses people all the time because of our pay is so much better than his. He can't compete with it. So that was one. They didn't even follow up. They wouldn't have followed up if I hadn't said anything. And I'm sure there were more people involved in that little thing than I know of that people have reported to me. Um, so that's the biggest kicker for me. I guess I explained that well enough. I'm sure somebody will chop it up. The other one is about trustworthiness and who you are loyal to. Remember, I said they operate and they deal with you in a silo, right? Um, but I had a conversation with the other thing is trustworthiness. And I come from a background, you know my background, but trust is very important. And senior leaders have to be able to trust the people they work with. So I had a conversation, and be fully transparent. We were at an event. Me and the sheriff's and me and Sheriff Staley had a conversation, just casual conversation, I was talking about Manning and stuff like that. And he told me about two specific individuals that came over from the county, and he gave me a little bit of background on them and stuff. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, that's very interesting. So when I went back to Lauren with that, um, we're in just like this in the office, and it's a one-on-one conversation. I look her straight in the eyes, and I was like, Lauren, this is a private conversation, and it doesn't leave this room. Plain and simple. That's pretty easy to understand, right? If I'm a senior executive, I'm not talking to my city manager. I have to have that trust in you that you're going to keep my conversations private. So we had the discussion, and I said it 2 times. I said, this conversation that leave this room. That same evening or the next evening, I'm at an event at the beach for an entrepreneur thing. And I get a call from Sheriff Staley. And Sheriff Staley asked me, Mike, why am I getting a call about a conversation that you and I had? Now, he didn't ask me to keep it confidential when we talked about it, but you would assume that if you're talking, the sheriff and the mayor, that your conversation is going to be private. But I felt the need to bring it up to my city manager, and I did. And I said, keep it confidential. And I was taken aback that a conversation I told someone, a senior executive specifically, this conversation that leave this room, and I'm being confronted with it by the sheriff. So we'll move on to another subject. But to me, in a different form of government, and I told her specifically, I said, Lauren, I said, if I can't trust you, I can't work with you. Plain and simple. So we have to develop that trust. But I don't expect my private conversations with you to be out in the hallways of this organization. Plain and simple. So in a different form of government, I would have terminated her on the spot. If this was a strong mayor form of government, I would have terminated her on the spot. Okay. Now we can move on to the other issue. And this goes back to Miss Hyder's resignation. Regardless of what's being reported by Flagler Live or Pierre and Brian McMillan on Palm Coast Observer, the last council violated the city charter when they appointed Mr. Gambaro to that position. And as soon as I was in office, I went to, and this is all, complete transparency. I went to Mr. Duffy's supervisor, Jeremiah Blocker. And I was actually in my truck when I had this conversation because really I can't trust anybody in the building to keep my conversations from being out on the street. So I sat in my truck and I gave Mr. Jeremiah Blocker a call, and I said, Jeremiah, I'm like, this is the deal. Because Jeremiah was a county commissioner. He's been an elected official before. And I told him flat out, I said, I cannot trust our city attorney if he can't understand basic constitutional law. Plain and simple. And I said, you know better. You were an elected official and you know better, and you understand basic constitutional law. If you don't understand basic constitutional law, How can I trust you to do all these land management deals and contracts and ordinances when I can't trust you to do basic constitutional law? Now, and I'll probably get beat up on this, but this is the way it goes. Our city charter, if the person is not halfway through their term, the current council can appoint someone, but only until the next regularly scheduled election. Meaning last year, Ms. Hyder resigned around the 19th of August. The election was on 5 November. So they had every right to appoint Mr. Gambaro to that position, but only until the next regularly scheduled election. And the regularly scheduled election for Palm Coast is on even number years, the first Tuesday after the first Monday of the month, meaning the first Tuesday of the month. Um, they had every right to appoint him, but only until the election. Now they say, well, we didn't have time for the people to collect the petitions and get qualified for the ballot. Well, the charter doesn't say that. The charter gives you a remedy for that. The remedy is there's two things. You either get the petitions, or you pay the fee as established through the city charter and ordinances. Your stomach okay?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when they sat on that dais and they said that they didn't have time to collect the petitions, and it was unfair for someone to pay over $3,000 to get on the ballot, the fear was that someone was going to buy the position. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
So that wasn't true, because when Pierre wrote his article on the 19th, when Miss Hyder, when Miss Hyder resigned, he wrote in that article that it was a little over $900 for someone to get on the ballot. Um, Hindsight's 2020, but people should have known what they should have done. As soon as someone resigns from the city council, they should have called a special workshop, a special business meeting or something, and they should have discussed it and laid it out exactly what needed to happen. If they'd have done that in early August, there was plenty enough time for a person to get on the ballot for that position. It didn't have to deal with Katie Lynn Hart at the supervisor election. I'm sure Katie didn't say, well, there's not a tough time. Katie doesn't care. If you get on the ballot, you get on the ballot the way you're supposed to. So they should have had a special meeting, and they should have discussed it, and they should have put it on the ballot. And you had all those residents, to include myself, stand up there telling them, put it on the ballot, put it on the ballot. The fear was it would cost too much money, but the cost was only a little over $900. So if you're not financially sound enough to be able to beg, borrow, or steal $900 to get on the ballot to serve your community, then you're probably not the person that needs to be sitting on the city council anyway, because you're not going to have time to work and support your family and sit on the city council. It's not going to work that way. When I brought that subject up at the city council and I asked for the official legal opinion of council, they would not second it and give me consensus to get that. Mr. Duffy stated that he had given his legal opinion in an email, and I requested that email. I went back and I had that email on my phone. This is the kicker, Crystal. You're going to like this one. Mr. Duffy recommended to the previous city council that they wait until after the November 5th election to appoint someone to that position, which was illegal too. That would have violated the charter. But for him to say, this letter was dated the 19th of August. The 19th of August. What happened on 20 August?
I don't remember exact dates.
The 20th of August was the primary election, and I won it.
Yes.
So his legal opinion changed from the 19th to the 20th, or they operated in a silo with all the city council members, and this is what they told. But that is basic constitutional law right there as far as our city charter is concerned. You can go back and read it, and if you don't understand what it says, next regularly scheduled election means the next regularly scheduled election. So right now we have a city council member that is sitting on the city council that is not an elected official and representing that district. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So we got that out of the way. That's a big issue, because to me, any votes that gentleman makes is illegitimate. Any motions he makes, anything he does is illegitimate. Okay, what's next?
So, just for clarification purposes, when we get back to the conversation in question that was brought up on the last March 7th meeting, who all was present in that closed door meeting? Was it just specifically you and Miss Johnston, or was there somebody else present in some way, shape, or form?
Well, to protect my civil liberties and this investigation going forward, whatever way it pans out, there's three people in the meeting. That was me, Lauren Johnston, Jason De Lorenzo. I called Mr. Duffy, and Mr. Duffy was on the phone during the conversation. That's all I can say about that
Okay.
meeting.
Um, how do you respond to the allegations that you attempted to direct the acting city manager to fire senior city staff?
I did not direct her to fire anyone. I know that I can't tell her to fire. Well, I I can discuss with her positions, but I can't as a single person say you need to fire that person,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to fire you if you don't. Well, that's not the way it works. The only two people we can hire and fire in the city is the attorney, us in the city, meaning the city council, is the attorney and the city manager. And Miss Johnston knew a lot of my stances on a lot of staffing issues before I was ever sworn in.
Okay. Um, how do you address the concerns that were brought up in the discussion about your alleged actions and the toxic work environment that they may have created?
There's nothing toxic about me being in the workforce in the city. The problem is I'm not going along to get along, and specifically, I'm sure it's out there on the net right now. The whole thing is about the comprehensive plan and going forward out west and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And they were operating in a silo, all those people. And you can go back and you can watch the February 18th city council meeting, part two. And that's when the first time I handed the gavel to the vice mayor and made a motion. And I made a motion the table the comprehensive plan, which we really wound up tabling the comprehensive plan, and we did some major changes to it because Miss Pontieri didn't agree with it. I don't, well, I can't speak for her, but from what I perceived from her, she didn't agree with it, the way that went down, and these RC has been taken advantage of, and I've said this over and over again now, and especially on water. And this is, people have to remember this, and this is like the third or fourth time I've said it. In 1999, the ITT sold the wastewater treatment plant one and all the stuff, wastewater, all that stuff. They sold it to that utility for $25 million. Okay. And if Pierre's reporting, the text he sent me was not only did they they sell it for $25 million, they received $1,000 for every hookup that went into the city from 1999 to 2007. ITT received that money. 2003, the city bought the utility for $83 million plus an extra like $20 million to bring it up to standard at the time. This is back then. So we have been in the hole since the inception of the city. And right now, I think the debt is carried at like $155 million. And they were wanting us to tack on like another 450, something like that. Ungodly amount of money when you think about it. And you're like, wow, okay, this is bad. And they don't understand how bad it is. And the residents need to understand how bad it is. Um, Even with that initial plan that they had, that I voted for initially, and I really didn't want to, but I'm like, my goodness gracious, we are in such a bad spot, and I hate to raise anyone's water rates and utility rates by 37% because that is a lot of money for a fixed income household. I've never lived anywhere in my life where the city utilities have been that much money. It's just and I proposed some things as far as shifting some things over to the non-ad valorem tax to try to ease the burden on the people from month to month and put some of that where people have to take care of it in their escrow account. Um, but it's an ungodly amount of money, and um, we're in a tight spot. We are in a really tight spot. Um, but going back to the wastewater, um, they worked that silo. They had their 3 votes. That's when they pretty much Miss Pontieri's concerns didn't matter because they had the 3 votes they wanted, and they didn't think. I don't think they thought for a second that I would pull back and say no, we're not going to do that. But we have to fix it, and I'm not going to go forward until my. Oh, I'm sorry. This is where I was going with that. I do. I get. There's Crystal. My mind's running with the improvements. If we spent all that money, over $400 million, and all the money, the revenue we have coming in anyway from the enterprise fund, that would only bring us up to the current houses in the city. We have 19,000 houses that are somewhere along the lines as far as development that are in the queue. And I think Mr. De Lorenzo said 7,500 are infill lots in the city. So we're going to pay almost $500 million to get us up to speed for the existing residents with no consideration to the growth that they're going to keep pushing. Unless we do something, unless I have reassurances for my residents that, hey, look, we're paying for it, but we're not going to let them keep doing what they're doing in our city. It's just, you can't, it's unsustainable unless we get our tax base, because right now we're a 90-10 split, right? Mm-hmm. 90% of our ad valorem taxes comes from individual homeowners. 10% is from commercial industrial. We can't survive like that. It's unsustainable, uh, and it's going to cause people to flee the city. And if you can't afford to live here, you're gonna have to leave and go try to live somewhere else, a cheaper state, cheaper part of some cheaper state, or some cheaper or less expensive part of the state. But those opportunities are going away too, because it's throughout the country, up into Canada. People in Canada making over $100,000 a year are eligible for Habitat for Humanity. It's out of control, and right now I think the prices are coming down, but we have probably 1,300 or something like that in houses on the market right now. If you go on Zillow and you zoom out and look how many houses are on the market in this city.
There's a lot.
Median home price, what, 370, 380?
I think it's coming
it,
down a
it
little bit.
fluctuates a little bit, but it's been downtrending a little bit. But our residents deserve some type of assurance that they're telling you day in and day out, the roads are overcrowded, the infrastructure's failing, we don't have enough water, our stormwater management system it needs a lot of work. And I don't take anything from the hardworking uh, employees of the city. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Now, leadership's a different question. um, you know you have to have leaders that are willing to do the right thing. And right now, I don't think we have them. And major changes. I think complacency and people, being comfortable, and you know, you've got people that's been working for the city. Maybe Barbara's the longest one. Barbara's been there like 30 years more. Mr. Flanagan, not saying anything against those folks, it's just her name. They've been here that long. But most organizations don't operate like that. People leave. You have a turnover rate. We have a lot of people that are just sitting there in those positions, and the leadership. There's a lot of things that need to happen that's not happening, in my opinion. But I'm only one vote on the city council.
Okay. Um, what's your stance on the council's decision to initiate the investigation? And obviously, you plan to cooperate with that.
Oh, no worries. They can investigate me. I'm doing my job, but I didn't tell Lauren Johnson to fire anyone specifically. I didn't say you need to fire this. No, I never did that. We had a conversation, and I told her what I thought, but I certainly didn't tell her to fire anyone on the spot. So, we can talk about staffing and stuff like that. And like I said, before I was ever sworn in, she knew my stance on a lot of the staffing issues.
Okay. Um, in light of these allegations, how do you plan to restore the trust among the council members, city staff, and residents of Palm Coast?
Trust for who?
For you, for them,
Oh,
for
I
everyone.
don't, I don't think,
What are your
I don't,
plans to?
I
Do
don't.
you have a plan to bring trust back into all three areas?
Well, I know the residents don't have to worry about trusting me because I'm doing the right thing, and I haven't done anything wrong. And I'll go down with the ship because I've done nothing wrong. And the other council members, I'm telling you, everything is about that comprehensive plan and going west. And if you get in their way, they're going to do everything they can to bring you down. And I'm not going to stand for it. I'll cooperate. They can do the investigation, but everything I've said along the campaign, you said right in here, and I told you just a few minutes ago, the best interview that I've given. If you want to know about Mike Norris and the way he thinks, watch that video, and you can put it in the comments of your video, because that's the God's honest truth. I've been here 19 years, and we have to do something, and we need the right leadership in our city, and I'm not going to let up. They can. A lot of people don't understand. One of the reasons that I'm mayor of Palm Coast, I'm grateful for the voters, but I would have never ran for office. I would have kept doing my thing. Me and Tracy, our kids are out of the house, so we could have traveled, done everything, you know. But the powers that be in this city, they defamed my family name back during the last campaign cycle when Miss Hyder and Miss Pontieri were elected. They defamed my family name and my family. You know, me as a person, my legacy is my children, and I'm not going to let someone defame my family name. My family's been in this country since before it was a country. My family has been here since 1631. I am not going to let someone defame my family name or my kids' family name for generations to come. My kids are super kids. We have been a pillar of this community for 19 years, and I'm not going to take it. But that's one of the main reasons I ran for office, because someone defamed my family name. And if you don't think I won't fight you like hell about that, you got another thing coming. I've already reached out. I've reached out to everybody. I'm serious. I reached out to the elections commission as far as the Gambaro appointment. They said that's a local issue. I'm not going to touch it. I reached out to the attorney general as far as doing a forensic audit. They pointed me to Senator Collins and the Joint Legislative Audit Committee, which Mr. Greco, our representative, he's a member of. I've done that. I've even I've even tried or discussed getting a land use attorney on retainer for me personally that I can trust, that's going to help me navigate the things that are going on in this city. The bad things, Crystal, the retainer for an attorney, the guy I hit up about representing me, was $2,500 a month. The mayor of Palm Coast doesn't make $2,500 a month, and I'm certainly not going to dip into my personal finances to get an attorney that I can trust working for me to help me navigate these land use issues that are going on in our city. Um, I'm hell bent on doing the right thing for the city. I'm hoping we can get another person on the council and get a good city manager to move forward. But this investigation is going to play out the way it does, and guess what? My life's not going to change. It's only going to get easier. If they kick me out of office, my life's just going to get easier. So I'm doing everything I can for this city, and I'm probably the only city council member that's in that office almost every day, talking with residents, running stuff to ground, trying to figure things out, trying to work with people that want to bring their industry and jobs here. I am doing it. I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing as a mayor, and um, it's it's disheartening to have this come down like this here. But we're going to go for it, and we're gonna do what's right for the city.
My last question is, do you feel that these allegations were issued against you because you had just previously voiced concerns and you proposed a building moratorium?
Well, I'm dead serious about that. because we can't. I just gave you the numbers. We don't
Mm-hmm.
have the. We have overpromised on water, and we can't deliver. So you're going to put in a moratorium and say, hey, okay, stop. Let us try to get our feet under us, get our sea legs, and get things straight. Or we're just going to keep letting them go on and on and on and put it on the backs of the residents.
But do you feel these allegations were made because you voiced support for a moratorium?
I think I think these allegations were made because somebody got out over their skis, and quite a few people probably have a few sunshine law violations coming their way, really coming their way. And there's probably a video out there now, so we'll go forward with that.
All
And
right.
I have no problem. I'll raise my hand to God and swear on the Bible anytime they want me to. But we will have. I'm not going to let someone violate my civil liberties by this investigation. So we're going to do it on the up and up the right way, or we can take it to a judge.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the
What else? You got
time.
to come on, give me some questions.
I did.
Okay. Have
Were
you
there
have you
anything? Was there anything else regarding?
have you been to Coles?
Not recently.
Okay, the exit coming out of Coles, how the arrows were wrong, and you had somebody from trying to shoot across in the right turn lane. We
Mm-hmm.
finally got that fixed. That was great because they either code enforcement made Coles take care of it, whoever owns the complex, or our city utilities or our public works went out and painted them. But people don't have to worry about getting hit coming out of there right now. We're going to do other things. I have people hit me up now about some wrong way signs. Or people have to understand I am very responsive. If you hit me up on Facebook, and you know I typically take a picture of the complaint and then I try to follow up on Monday or Tuesday or throughout the week. But I'm in the office almost every day, up until this week. I've been in the office, and I even have a meeting tomorrow with some people that want to do some great things in the community. And when we were working other projects. Um, so we're working with the county. County's got some real bad issues, as far as the absent sales tax for the beach, and everybody's seen the public comments on that. So we're trying to do what we got to do to keep our community and our county and our city going forward. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah. And we will definitely be doing a follow up interview with you down the line as the investigation comes to a head and
Yeah.
decisions are rendered. And I finished doing some research into a few other things that I believe might be relevant. So
Yeah.
we'll be definitely doing a follow up. So you can look for a request from us in the next couple of weeks, hopefully.
Well, the current thing, the intel that I've been receiving is, I guess they're trying to entice other city employees to come forward and say I bullied them, or I I've been nothing but kind to the people that I work with. Uh, and I don't have interaction with too many people during the day because you're in the C-suite. You don't have that much interaction. But I think the ladies and guys that work up there that are in my general vicinity, we've developed a pretty good relationship. I think, and I could be wrong, but I'm not a fake person. I'm not going to act nice to you and do something behind your back. People typically know what I think of them off the bat. I'm that kind of person. You may not like that old soldier, straightforwardness, but that's the way I am. We had one little instance where the communications department thought I was trying to insult them, and I told Lauren, I'm like, bring them in here. And all the people in communications, the marketing, all those guys are right there. Their office is right next to mine. I said, bring them in here. Bring them in here. I said, let's. My door is always open. We're good. When they walked out, they said we're good. Um, so if it's a misunderstanding, I am that kind of person too. I have an open door. You know, it's not just a figure of speech for me. It's an open door. Any employee in the city, if they know something that's wrong or they're being treated unfairly, just like the residents, you're more than welcome to make an appointment and come see me or hit me up. My number is out there. 276-4016 is my number. Anybody can call me or come see me or make an appointment. I am open to the public, and I am here for the people of Palm Coast.
Okay.
What else? Give me something else. You got me. You got the mayor. This is the first sit down interview that I have done since the election. Believe it or
All
not.
right,
The
well,
other guys don't want anything to do with me because we know their reasons.
all right. Well, then let's talk about one last thing.
Yeah.
In your email that you had sent me, or your press manager Chase had sent me,
Yeah.
there were some allegations of kickbacks at the utilities department.
Oh, right.
Do
Yeah.
you want to touch on a little bit of
No,
that?
but well, I can't say I talked to, but I brought it to someone's attention. Didn't get any feedback on that either. And I had the guy's Facebook. I'm like, do you know that guy? Yeah, he works for me. He's my direct report. But the allegation was from another guy that worked for the city for a while. I think he's working over in St. Augustine now. But he said, this is what's going on, Mike. He said, you have a guy in your city that's receiving a $250 kickback for every PEP system put in the city. $250 kickback for every PEP system put in the city. We're pushing, I think we're pushing 17,000 PEP systems in the city right now,
give or take.
So no follow up on that. What else? I can guarantee you right now, if I were to text our city manager or Jason DeLorenzo, chief of staff, they would not respond to me. If you're a salaried employee, if I text you on a weekend and I ask you a question and you're a senior executive of my organization, I expect you to answer me. And apparently, that's the way the city of Palm Coast senior staff rolls. But you understand a little bit of frustration there?
Oh yeah, I can see where people could be frustrated.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, that's about all I can say on that. What else? You got anything else?
Not right now. I will be reaching out. Like I said, in the next couple of weeks, I've got a lot of research that I am currently in the process of doing, and I'm gonna wait until I get some of that back and sift through it before I come back for interview part 2.
Okay. But this is for the employees of Palm Coast. If you think that anyone in your chain of command is doing anything illegal that they shouldn't be doing, you can come up to my office anytime you want.
Would you be willing to meet with employees outside of City Hall and office hours?
Yes, ma'am. They can come right here and sit in this office with you. Same thing with Brad West. He can come right here and sit right next to me and have a conversation. Or I will meet you wherever, as long as Kendra gets it on my calendar, because in this position, I live by my calendar and Kendra controls my calendar.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us about everything going on right now. I look forward to getting in touch with you in the next couple of weeks and doing another interview when we have some more of the information out.
Yes, ma'am.
It's been very informative.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's always a pleasure interviewing you. So thank you.
Oh, I know it, because everybody likes Mike. Thanks, guys.